Folks, I have to say, Kody Brown seems like he's really struggling to make sense of things these days. And on this week's Sister Wives episode, we watched something truly uncomfortable unfold. Christine and her husband David sat down with Kody, and Kody tried to apologize too. Christine, last week, we saw the first part of that apology. Kody said he was sorry for telling Christine to her face years ago that he had never really loved her. And there he was, saying those words again, right in front of David, her new husband. He'd already admitted to Christine privately, long before the cameras rolled, that toward the end, their marriage felt loveless. Now, maybe it wasn't always that way. I don't know for sure. But what I do know is that the whole scene felt painfully awkward. And friends, it only gets more awkward in the episode coming up this Sunday. Kody fumbles his way through the rest of the apology, telling Christine that their relationship was actually beautiful, almost magical, like something out of a poem. I sat there thinking, wait just a minute, what kind of apology is this? It was so confusing. Christine and David handled it with the kind of grace and quiet disbelief that most of us would probably feel if someone delivered that kind of mixed message nonsense to us. Kody went on about how their life together was a profound experience, poetic even, like a storm rolling in at sunset. There were hard days, sure, but good ones too. And from a poet's view, it was all beautiful. I've honestly never heard an apology quite like it. He says, "I'm sorry I told you I didn't love you," and then immediately launches into how wonderful and romantic it all was. Storms, sunshine, the whole thing sounding like a greeting card written after one too many coffees. I had to laugh a little because it was such a jumble of words. What on earth was he trying to say? Look, we've only seen pieces of their marriage over the years, and that's plenty. What we did see, season after season, was Kody often dismissing Christine, putting her down, or making her feel like she wasn't quite enough. Most of us watching wouldn't exactly call that a love poem. Maybe a stormy chapter in someone's life story. But not the sweet, romantic kind Kody was suddenly describing. And the truly head-scratching moment when David, calmly, politely, asked Kody for a real apology because Kody had hurt his wife. Kody's response? Something along the lines of, well, he's not available emotionally, so I'm not going to ask him for one. It was like watching David gently stand up for Christine while Kody sidestepped the whole thing. I went back and watched some older clips, and oh boy, do they remind you how often Kody let Christine down. There was that time a relative suggested Kody should return to a more mainstream church and keep just one wife. Christine was understandably hurt. She felt it disrespected their family. But instead of listening and supporting her, Kody brushed it off and even mocked her feelings. That was just one example out of so many. Time and again, he'd tell her he'd treat her better if she were more lovable, more respectful, more trustworthy. It kept her walking on eggshells, always doubting herself. And now he's trying to paint it all as some grand poetic love story. In 15 years of watching, I can count on one hand the moments Christine seemed truly happy in that marriage. She was voicing concerns about their relationship as far back as season 1, and it never really stopped. It's sad when you think about it, but it's also a reminder of just how complicated these things can get. Before things really started falling apart between Kody and Mary, the main storyline on the show was all about the troubles between Kody and Christine. Right from the early seasons, Christine was open about how hard plural marriage was for her. She even told Kody at one point that she wasn't sure she believed in it anymore. Those struggles were front and center for a long time. Then, suddenly, the focus shifted to the problems between Kody and Mary, and that storyline dragged on for season after season. It was so intense that a lot of us kind of lost sight of what was still going on with Christine and Kody. But here's the thing. Their relationship never really improved. Not once. Through Areteos, all those years on television, they just didn't seem truly happy together. It was plain to see. So when Kody offers this apology now, it feels so out of place, almost bizarre really. And honestly, it only gets stranger as he keeps talking. He says something like, I'm sorry for acting like the victim, because I wasn't. And then he adds, I'm not telling you how to feel about this. I sat there thinking, goodness, what kind of apology is that? It felt like he was tiptoeing around everything. Remember how he apologized to Janelle? That was different. He told her straight out, I'm sorry I didn't have your back in those early years. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you, that I didn't stand up for you or advocate for you. He even said he wished he'd done a better job. It felt sincere, even if part of it seemed aimed at pointing fingers elsewhere. But with Christine, so far his big points are, I'm sorry I said I didn't love you, and I'm sorry I played the victim when I wasn't. And then that odd line about not telling her how to feel. I have to ask, what does him playing the victim have to do with the hurt he caused her? And when exactly was he oddly not playing the victim? Because from where I sat watching all these years, it sure looked like he leaned into that role an awful lot. There's just so much he could have owned up to, things that would have felt like a real apology. He could have said, I'm sorry I abandoned you emotionally. I'm sorry I wasn't there for Truly when she needed me most. I'm sorry I stopped coming over to your house, stopped holding your hand, stopped showing any affection at all. I'm sorry I told you to stay in a marriage where I had already checked out. He could have said, I'm sorry I didn't prioritize our relationship. I'm sorry for the times I made you feel unattractive or unwanted, like when I admitted I was never attracted to you. I'm sorry for bringing Robin into the family right when you were pregnant and needed me. I'm sorry for expecting those long massages without ever giving one back. There were moments that made a lot of us uncomfortable, things that felt unfair or even unkind. He could have acknowledged those. But instead, we get, I'm sorry I played the victim. Then he circles back to how special parts of their experience were and drops this bombshell that to live plural marriage the way he wanted, he needed more than one wife. He says he was in such a rush to live the principle that he didn't properly vet who he was marrying. He even claims that, as a polygamist, he wasn't really supposed to fall in love the way most people do. He talks about trying to love everyone equally, like you do with children or friends, where each relationship is different but still meaningful. But then he says society just slaps you down for aiming for that higher love. And Christine, quiet but clear, responds, we married under circumstances that weren't romantic. And then for her, at least. It wasn't the fairy tale he was suddenly remembering. Friends, it's moments like this that make you pause and think about how complicated relationships can be, and how much courage it takes to walk away when something isn't right anymore. You know, when Kody pushed back and said, they weren't romantic for you, well, they were for me. I didn't know any better. It just hung in the air, didn't it? It felt like two people remembering completely different marriages. Here's where I'll be straight with you, because we've watched this family for years. Maybe Kody truly never felt the kind of romantic love for Christine that most of us think of when we say, in love. It's possible. And honestly, in the world of polygamy they were living in, love isn't always defined the same way we define it in a traditional marriage. For them, getting married was about something bigger, reaching the celestial kingdom together, fulfilling what they believe was their spiritual destiny. They talked about spirit babies waiting in heaven, needing parents to bring them to earth. The women often felt a spiritual pull toward Kody, like he was the one chosen for them. It was sold as this beautiful, almost magical plan from God. A lot of us watching from the outside can see how fantastical that sounds. But for years, they truly believed it. Kody has been surprisingly consistent about Christine from the very beginning. Early on, in those first seasons, he openly said he was drawn to her because of her family pedigree. She came from polygamist royalty, as they saw it. Her grandfather, Rulon Allred, founded the AUB group they were part of, not the beginning of fundamentalism, but a big branch of it. Kody admired that blue blood lineage, the direct connection to a man they viewed as a prophet. So, yes, it's entirely possible he chose Christine partly for those spiritual credentials, not just because his heart was racing. At the same time, feelings can grow once you're living life together. What started as a spiritual decision might have turned into real affection over the years, at least in moments. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Kody has always done this. He swings between extremes, like it's all magical or it's all terrible, with no room for the messy truth in between. But when he says he rushed into plural marriage and grabbed 3 wives as fast as he could just to live the principle, I believe him. I really do. He wanted the checklist: 1 wife, 2 wives, 3 wives, done. Living the faith. What I don't buy is this idea that he didn't vet them properly. Vet them for what, exactly? He knew each woman well enough to spot what he liked. He always enjoyed how silly and fun Christine could be, how she brought lightness and laughter. With Janelle, he loved it that she was thoughtful, analytical, good with numbers and business talk. And with Mary, in the beginning, there was real passion and attraction. He's said so himself many times. So this whole apology where he tells Christine, "I just want you to remember how special it was," doesn't feel like an apology at all. It feels more like he's trying to rewrite the story in her mind. Like he's saying, "You're not hurt because of how I treated you for years. You're not upset about the things I did or didn't do. You're only mad because of what I said later, after you left." But friends, he was saying those hurtful things during the marriage too, not just after. And now he's painting these rosy pictures of storms and sunsets and poetry, almost like he's trying to nudge her into remembering only the good parts. It seemed to soften Janelle a bit when he tried something similar with her, but with Christine, it's not landing. She's past it. She's genuinely moved on. Happy in a new chapter with David, and David sits there, calm and steady, clearly not swayed by any of Kody's words. It's a little sad to watch, isn't it? But it's also a powerful reminder that sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is close a chapter with grace and keep walking forward. Christine's doing just that, and she looks lighter for it. You know, watching David sit there during this whole exchange, I could almost feel his discomfort right through the screen. He's this calm, steady guy who clearly adores Christine, just parked in the middle of all this old history, probably thinking, what in the world am I doing here? It had to feel awkward for him, like being the third wheel at a reunion you never signed up for. And honestly, it's hard not to shake your head at some of Kody's words. He insists things were romantic for him, but come on, we all saw him court Christine, marry her, and build a family with her. 6 children don't just happen by accident. You don't stay with someone for decades and raise a big, beautiful family together without some real love in there somewhere. It's just strange to hear him talk now, like it was all some big, spiritual transaction with no heart involved. The more I listen to this apology, the more I wonder if Kody truly knows how to say "I'm sorry" in a way that means something. I'm starting to think he doesn't fully see what he did wrong, not deep down. A real apology requires you to step into the other person's shoes, to feel, even for a moment, the hurt your words or actions cause. You have to care about how the other person felt, even if that wasn't what you intended. I hate to say it, but I'm not sure Kody has that kind of empathy. Over the years, so many of his choices seem rooted in his own needs, his ego, his vision, his comfort. When you treat people the way he sometimes treated the wives, dismissing their feelings, telling them they needed to be more lovable to earn kindness, ew. Well, that doesn't leave much room for caring how they're hurting. In a healthy relationship, both people bend a little. You listen. You make space for the other person's voice. You try to honor what they need, not just demand that they conform to what you want. It's supposed to go both ways. I've always found it interesting, and a little sad, how some folks in these fundamentalist circles talk about submission. They quote the part about wives submitting to husbands, but they conveniently skip the very next line in the Bible that tells husbands to love their wives the way Christ loved the church. And how did Christ love the church? By serving, by sacrificing, by putting others first, even to the point of giving his life. It was never meant to be one-sided. Even within that teaching, It's supposed to be mutual honor and respect. I'll meet you here because I love you, and you'll meet me there because you love me. In today's words, we might just call it respecting and cherishing each other. But with Kody, it often felt like the rule was, you submit to me, full stop, no real give and take. No true honoring of what the wives were feeling or needing. And if we're going strictly by the scriptures he claims to follow, even there that the standard is clear. A man is never supposed to be harsh or cruel to his wife. He's supposed to treat her with gentleness and understanding. Watching all this unfold now, years later, it just reminds me how grateful I am for relationships built on real partnership, where both people feel seen, heard, and valued. Christine has that now, and you can see the difference it makes in her. She's glowing in a way we didn't often see before. Life's too short to stay where you're not truly cherished, folks. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose peace and respect for yourself and for the people you love. You know, friends, when you step back and really look at the teachings Kody claims to follow so closely, it's hard not to feel a little disappointed in how far short he's fallen. The Bible he often points to is pretty clear. Husbands aren't supposed to abandon their wives, treat them harshly, or devalue them. They're called to respect, honor, and protect the women in their lives, to cherish them the way Christ cherished the church. And if you read the Gospels, Jesus spent his time lifting people up, especially those society pushed to the margins. He sat with women who were looked down on, listened to them, served them, even washed his disciples' feet as an example of humble love. He saw worth and dignity in everyone, no matter their past or their status. I may not be practicing my faith the way I once did, but some of those teachings still resonate deeply with me. The idea that every single person is worthy of love and kindness, that no one is beyond redemption or care, that's beautiful. And one of the simplest, most powerful lines in all of Scripture is that golden rule in Matthew chapter 7. Do to others whatever you would like them to do to you. Again, it's the heart of the whole message. Treat people the way you'd want to be treated. If you dish out criticism, coldness, or dismissal, don't be surprised when it comes back around. Yet over the years, we watched Kody struggle mightily with that basic idea. He'd demand respect and submission, but so often didn't offer the same gentleness or understanding in return. And on the topic of marriage itself, well, Jesus was pretty straightforward in Matthew 19. A man leaves his parents, joins with his wife, and the two become one flesh. Not three, not four, one. Let no one split apart what God has joined together. Even when the disciples pressed him on divorce, he said it was only allowed because of hard hearts, not because it was God's original plan. And remarrying after an improper divorce? He called that adultery. Now, Kody leans heavily on Old Testament examples of polygamy. And sure, those stories are there. But even if you stick strictly to the Old Testament, the 10 Commandments don't leave much wiggle room. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, eat, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Right there in Exodus, plain as day. And the very first commandment? No other gods before the true God, including, I'd gently add, our own pride or ego. It's tough to watch someone wave the banner of faith so loudly while seemingly missing some of its most basic instructions on kindness, fidelity, and humility. So, when this apology rolls out now, all tangled up with excuses and rosy memories instead of real accountability, it's no wonder the family looks weary. It doesn't feel like a heartfelt, I'm sorry, born from reflection or regret. It feels more like another performance. And sitting there with Christine and David, watching Kody stumble through it without truly owning the pain he caused, well, it's uncomfortable for all of us watching at home. Christine has every right to feel guarded. David has every right to sit there quietly protective. And the rest of the family? They've lived it. They know. At the end of the day, folks, real faith, isn't just about quoting verses or checking boxes on a spiritual checklist. It's about how you treat the people right in front of you, day after day, year after year. It's about choosing humility over ego, kindness over control, and love that builds people up instead of tearing them down. Christine's found that kind of steady, respectful love now. You can see it in her smile, hear it in her laugh. And maybe that's the quiet victory here, walking away from what wasn't healthy and stepping into something that truly honors who she is. Life's too precious to spend it begging to be seen. Sometimes the bravest, most faithful thing you can do is choose peace and let go. You know, I'm not one bit surprised that David looked so unsettled during that whole conversation. Here he is, sitting across from Kody, while Kody goes on about how beautiful and special his marriage to Christine was. Like he's trying to remind her of some grand romance, right? In front of her new husband. Folks, that's just not right. It's deeply inappropriate to have that kind of talk with your ex, let alone when her husband is right there, listening to every word. It almost feels like Kody hasn't fully let go. Like somewhere inside, he still sees Christine as his in some way. Because what decent man would walk up to a happily remarried ex and start waxing poetic about how magical their old relationship was? We had such a beautiful marriage. It was so special. Can you imagine saying that to someone who's now married to someone else? Most of us would think, good heavens, read the room. If one of my old flames tried that on me today, I'd politely but firmly say, I'm married now, take care. Christine and David both showed the patience of saints in that moment. Truly remarkable restraint. I'll be honest, when David first came into the picture, I was cautious too. Like a lot of you, I wondered if he was the right fit. And sure, he and I probably don't see eye to eye on every political thing, but here's what matters most. That's not the measure of a man's character. What counts is how he treats the woman he loves. And from everything we've seen, David is kind, supportive, and genuinely good to Christine. He listens to her, stands by her, makes her laugh. He's the steady partner she's always deserved. Not perfect, none of us are, but present, respectful, and loving. That's what a real partnership looks like. I can only imagine what's going through their heads as they film these upcoming scenes. Driving around in cars with Kody, listening to more of the same. You know, there will be tense moments about the kids. Maybe some push for more apologies. But off camera, I'd bet anything Christine and David are looking at each other thinking, this is ridiculous. Why are we even doing this? And quietly agreeing that David is the far better man in all the ways that truly count. Watching Christine glow with happiness these days is just heartwarming. After everything she went through, she's finally getting the love and respect she's always deserved. So friends, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What did you make of that whole awkward apology scene? Drop them in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this chat, please give the video a thumbs up. It really helps. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss an update. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.